Hi, Matt Beyer of Matt Beyer Organizing with How to Declutter with 10 Destinations. The first thing my team does before we begin with any decluttering process is clarify the destinations.
To bring momentum to your decluttering process, you've got to get clear on where it's all going. Because not everything is a dumpster solution.
I have identified 10 essential destinations to choose from to keep those decluttering wheels turning. I'm starting with the obvious choice of discard. While you want to give yourself enough destinations, you don't want to give yourself too many.
10 destinations are manageable. 50 destinations will kill progress. For example, for the sake of a big declutter, I don't recommend getting too fussy on the recycling. Get back to that after things are under control. For discards, I recommend black or at least solid trash bags.
One subcategory of discard that makes sense is shredding, if you're decluttering paper.
Collect in a banker box. Don't try to shred while you are decluttering. It breaks the momentum.
Next, if there are unneeded items that are still perfectly good but not worth selling, then they're good candidates for donating.
For donates, use a clear bag so you can see what's inside and so it doesn't get confused with the black trash bags. The garage is usually the best holding place for discards and donates because there's the most space and hauling trucks can easily back up and take it away.
Items of value that are worth the effort of selling should be held in a sell zone.
While you may want to reserve a spot close to your decision table, the best holding spot for a collection of sell items tends to be in the basement. Put up a sell zone sign to clarify the zone. For larger items like furniture, just put a post-it, maybe green for money, on the item to remind you that you decided to sell it.
You might think you'll remember without it, but it's just too easy to forget. Give to is a special designation for items that you have someone specifically in mind, maybe a family member or a friend.
You want to keep a destination separate from the general donate zone. Label the intended person's name on the item or box so you remember who you had in mind.
Of course, keep is an important destination.
I always recommend sorting items by category before reviewing To Declutter. As you set aside the items you are keeping, be sure to keep them in those categories. The categories will determine the destination of the items you are keeping. For example, if you find you have sorted a box of tools in the kitchen, maybe after having done a repair, then it becomes clear that the right destination is back to the garage.
Perhaps the best hidden way to free up living space is by realizing that many of the keep items can just be stored more remotely.
This is what my showroom stockroom analogy is all about. By identifying items that can be stored reliably findable in more remote stockroom storage, you can free up more space for more accessible items in your showroom spaces. This could be holiday items you only access once a year, archive files you are keeping just in case, and backup supplies you access about once a week. Keepsakes are an example of a category that can be both stockroom and showroom. Mostly you can store them remotely, but you might want a showroom location for regularly generated keepsakes, especially if you have young kids. Your daily artwork supply needs a home until you can review them all in context.
A key to constant movement is to allow nothing to pile up on the decision table. There must always be a destination. Here's a destination you might not think of in advance. You're always going to run into missing pieces, fixtures, game pieces, etc., that belong to something else that you can't yet locate.
Don't let this slow you down, and don't just leave it on the table. put it in a missing pieces box, and move on. Then, when the matching item does show up, you will know exactly where to look.
If you see something that requires your husband or wife's input, resist the urge to get on the phone and ask them.
This breaks your momentum, especially if you are lucky enough to have a helper or two. Put the item in question in an Ask Spouse box.
Then when you are done with everything else, you can ask your spouse about the contents of the box all at once. Some things may have gotten into the space that simply don't belong there.
For example, maybe you are organizing your home office and you come across some coffee mugs. Do not abandon your review space to drop the mugs off in the kitchen. Not only will this break momentum, but you run a great risk of being distracted by something else in another room. Instead, drop the mugs in an elsewhere box and keep going with the rest of the items in the room. When you're done, you can redistribute all the contents of the elsewhere box all at once.
Finally, you may come across some items that demand action as soon as you're done decluttering. This might include a slow review.
Rather than break momentum, on the things that are going to require careful review, set these items aside in a slow review box. In a quieter moment with a big review behind you, you can review the slow review contents with the space and focus you need. If working with help on a big project, this makes the perfect homework between sessions.
The whole point of identifying these 10 destinations is to limit your choices while still thoroughly covering your needs so that you can maintain momentum. Maintain clarity by keeping undecided items on one side of the room and decided items on the other side of the room. The bridge from undecided to decided is your decision table. This is your focus tool.
With these 10 destinations established, there should be zero reason for anything to stay on the decision table. Being able to clear it is what maintains momentum that will carry you forward.
Keep your destinations limited, and your decluttering progress will be unlimited. For more easy organizing tips, please subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you around.